Shot, he scores! And the Ballers win! Helena is no longer undefeated!
I'm not superstitious, but I am a little stitious.
Barons win! Barons win!
Cody Jansen stopped 92 out of 95 shots, including a penalty shot in overtime. Somehow he still only wound up the third star of the game.
You like that?
Jansen has a heart.
You're smoking crack!
It's Thursday, October 7th. Cody Jansen's here with you from the Pro Rock Broadcast Studios in beautiful Alberta. World Hockey Report presented by Lordco Auto Parts, the official auto parts retailer of Hockey Canada and Team Canada. If you're heading to the rink, Lordco is going to make sure you've got everything you need for a smooth ride, from bright white headlight replacement bulbs for increased visibility during early morning or late night commutes to battery maintainers that'll ensure your vehicle starts when the temperature drops. Visit a Lordco Auto Parts location for knowledgeable service, quality parts, and accessories. Visit lordco.com to find a store near you. And if you're in Edmonton, yeah, they got one right downtown. It is awesome. Awesome story. I know they got a bunch out in BC as well. We'll snap it over to our next guest in a second. We got the Hockey Podcast co-founders, Dylan Kaiser, Isha Jerome. He's going to hop on here. Former NHLer Jason Podollan is going to jump on in about 15 minutes or so. And then you. Yes, we want to hear from you today. 12:40, we open the phone lines. I'll talk anything. I don't care. Jack Eichel, Adam Beckman, whoever you want to talk about. Carey Price, Montreal, Edmonton, anything goes at 12:40 today. Join the conversation anytime. I'm on Twitter at Janner31_. The show's there at World Hockey RPT, and we're coming to you live on 12 Ounce Sports, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, wherever you are watching from. Over to BC now. Our next guest, co-founders of the Hockey Podcast Network. Dylan, what's going on, fellas? How you doing today?
Janet, I just want to say, big Lordco guys over here.
Yeah, big Lordco fans out here on the West Coast.
Frickin' right. That's the thing. I mean, when I talk about, hey, if I go in the Red Triangle store, it's just always a cluttered mess. You go in Lordco and it changes. It's like a BMW versus a Toyota or Camry or something like that. It's just perfect. It's clean. They're helpful.
You're seeing the pros at Lordco. You really do. You're seeing the pros at Lordco. I won't say anything about the Red Triangle, though.
That's fair. You can let me handle that one. You guys can keep clean there. Hey, let's talk about the Hockey Podcast Network here. Give the listeners, if we got some new ones, give them the background. What is THPN?
Well, the Hockey Podcast Network is pretty much your go-to hub for all hockey podcast content, from podcasts covering every team in the National Hockey League to a ton of original content, a ton of niche content. I mean, if you're a fan of hockey analytics, fantasy, hockey lifestyle, if you want to hear Terry Ryan go off about stories, both present and past,
And trust me, you do.
and if you want to hear about the fights of just the best hockey fights of all time, modern and past as well. I mean, we have shows for that as well. So really proud to be, one of the leaders in providing one of the biggest hockey hubs for the podcast world out there. And Dylan and I literally started this out of our, college rental home and grown it into, a real business and something where we can give a lot of people opportunity to get their content out there.
Okay, well, that's way too humble. I'll speak up. It's the best damn hockey podcast out there. It's the network. There's nothing like it. There's nothing even close. Whatever content you want, whatever team you want, there's something for it. And that's why World Hockey is a part of THPN, is because there's nothing close. That's as simple as I can say. Now, Dylan, I'll snap it over to you. What's new with the network this year? What shows have you added? What's there to look out for that's new? I know you got the Vancouver, the BC hockey show, but what else can people look for?
Oh, man, we're always adding new and exciting shows to the network. We have some new exciting projects that are kind of outside of the regular podcast realm that people look out for. So I won't go into any specific shows, but we are constantly adding new products to the network and some shows that we're actually super excited about.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're just growing all the time, looking for the best quality out there and and at the end of the day, the best people to work with. Because we've worked with some unbelievable content creators and have grown content, collectively, like under the network banner. And we've also teamed up with people who, respectively have done a very good job, respectively by themselves growing their brand. And we've come in to just be partners and be able to do things, like you said, uniquely and take things to a new level and really try to get people's visions to come to life.
And I'll put it this way, man. It's so easy in the hockey community. There's so many great people, and it's such a close and small community that people love working together. People love pumping up each other's content. And I really do think that's part of the reason why this network is so successful.
Yeah, it's a unique sport. It's a unique sport community. It has its ups and downs, but I think the content creator side, the media side, it's a tight-knit group, like Dylan said.
So media, I often consider it close to, an athlete. It's a profession. It's not really a job. It's not a 9-to-5 thing. Who are some of the people, podcasters, radio hosts, TV hosts, media members that you guys looked up to before you really dove headfirst into this?
All right, so I think this is actually pretty easy for us. I'm looking at Isha right now, and he knows where I'm going for this. So really the reason we got into podcasting was sports radio. And locally here in BC, we would listen to TSN 1040 before it was the Team 1040. Guys like Don Taylor, the Moj, Bob Marjanovic, Rick Dollywall. There's so many guys at that particular station. I feel like
Blake Price, Matt Sakaris, everyone from, the sports page days, way back in the day when John Shorthouse was on TV as well.
Yeah. So those are really the guys that I feel like got us into the industry, maybe, almost by accident. I mean, we listened to them as fans with really no intention of getting into the podcast business. And we kind of ended up here. And I think we can look back and say, you know what? Those are the guys that we kind of looked up to, when we started this whole thing.
Yeah, like put it this way, Jenna, when TSN 1040 out here in Vancouver got cut, we were gutted. We were absolutely gutted. We were actually
we shed tears.
We were driving to work. We were carpooling to the THPN office together, and when went to a commercial break that never ended, and we were in denial. We're like, no, this can't be happening. This can't be happening. The Green Day song comes up, and we're like, oh my God, over. And we were heartbroken, man, because like Dylan said, these guys and gals at the radio station collectively through so many years, even dating back to, like I said, Sports Page. That's what inspired us to do this, get into this field. I mean, we were going to college for completely different things before we started this as a hobby on a whim. And it's because of everyone at that station, everybody in the Vancouver media at that time, the last 2 decades, who really, paved the way, and B, inspired us to be able to create this.
That's awesome. That's definitely something I did not know. And I wanted to ask about the media landscape because it's ever changing, right? It's a different generation. Obviously, podcasting's huge. Live shows are huge. Look at our platforms that we use for our shows. That's where the future is. That's where everyone's going. These, the mainstream radio stations. And hey, I'm lucky enough to work at one. I'm lucky enough to be a part of some of the best media members in the Edmonton area. But for the most part, I think you got to hit reality with a hammer head on. They're not doing that well. Look at Sportsnet Radio. They cut down multiple. TSN Radio's got rid of multiple stations. How long do you think until the social media, the podcast platform, takes over, not completely, but let's say, 99% of the sports media realm?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if we'll ever hit 99%. Like you said, we're kind of seeing changes right now, but I do believe that at least, in a market like Canada, I do think you can have at least one successful sports radio station. Now, are you going to have 2 or 3 in this country right now in the media landscape? That's another question. And I don't necessarily think that's going to happen, but I do think there's always going to be that market for the traditional radio listener, getting in your car and just turning on the radio and going to work. That's really where these stations have thrived. And obviously, podcasting and streaming has taken something away from that, but I still do think there's a fairly large chunk for traditional sports radio stations. Yeah, regionally in Canada, it's not going to fly anymore. I mean, even with the landscape changing, south of the border in the States too, there's just simply way more people there, so they can support smaller regional stations because there's just a huge population in smaller towns and cities in the States. Where in Canada, I mean, Toronto is just kind of taking over everywhere. What I will say that it is vastly changing though, Cody. I mean, going back to just the example here on the West Coast, you look at like what Sakaris and Price have done. They basically just took their show that was on TSN 1040 and put it online on a live platform. It's pretty much the exact same show, the exact same amount of time. And they've joined a network that basically put quote unquote traditional radio, exactly how they were doing their show, on a live either podcast feed or just live internet airways, which now they're bringing in other shows as well. Ray and Dregs is on that network. Cammy Granado's show is on that network, and I'm sure they're going to keep growing there too on more of a live platform where you can go listen to it live and interact, or they just run it, on repeat after it shows, however they do it down the road. So it's all going to be a similar vibe. Everyone's going to get that same product that we've been wanting and will want as a sports fan. It's just you're going to find it in different places now. It's going to be more spread out. Yeah, as the media landscape evolves.
James hops in the chat here, says RIP Team 1040. 12 ounce says 5 days till the NHL, or till opening night in the NHL. LFG. I think we all know what that stands for. We're looking forward to it. We're talking with Dylan Kaiser, Isha Jerome from the Hockey Podcast Network, co-founders there. Now, scrap the media talk here. Let's talk actual hockey, what's going on. The Olympics. They announced the 3 players for each team. The Americans, they announced theirs as well today. Canada, I think Sweden, Czech Republic. There was a few other ones, but for Canada, let's go over the 3. It's Connor McDavid, Sidney Crosby, Alex Pietrangelo. Were you guys shocked by any of these for Canada specifically?
Pietrangelo does stick out a little bit, I guess, but, he's a veteran guy. You do expect him to be on Team Canada at the end of the day, so I'm not too surprised, but, you're looking at those 3 names, and one does kind of stick out. Yeah, I mean, you put Crosby and McDavid, the 2 best Canadian players in the National Hockey League right now, I would argue. Nathan McKinnon close there, but still Crosby and McDavid, in my mind, are the 2 best. Pietrangelo, I mean, they need to throw a defenseman up there, and Cody, I'll ask you, who else would have you picked as far as a defenseman? I mean, sure, you could put Chabot or a younger guy up there.
Or Makar, yeah.
Makar, but I mean, Pietrangelo, he's a Hockey Canada veteran too, and I'm not shocked. It was just kind of funny. I was like, oh yeah, he kind of stands out a little bit there. But really, Cody, who else would they have put up there?
I got 3 options that I would have not rather seen, but I think there are only 3 options, and maybe I'm missing someone. I mean, you can hop in the conversation. Tell me if I'm wrong here. You've got Drew Doughty, who has represented Canada before. He's got gold medals. He's an absolute stud. Everyone knows that. You've got Darnell Nurse, who is one of the best. You can't even call him up and coming anymore. I mean, this guy's an absolute stallion. He eats wild minutes. He can do it all. He can play power play on the league's best power play. He's one of the best defenders in the league. And then you've got Cale Makar, whose offensive abilities are bar none. No one comes close to that. But I don't hate the Pietrangelo one because he's been one of the most successful defensemen in the NHL of recent years. Obviously, he led St. Louis to a Stanley Cup. He got his payday in Vegas. And look at all the success Vegas has in the playoffs. I mean, they're going to go deep in the playoffs as long as he's there.
Jenner, after hearing two of those names, Pietrangelo doesn't sound too bad now.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying, who else is there from Canada who you could see realistically? I
got one. And, full circle, throwing it back to the media conversation, too. I mean, Team Canada should have rode the wave of that New Jersey Devils kerfuffle and thrown PK Subban up there.
Shut up. Get out of here. Get out of here. That is the off. That's not even a close one. He doesn't make no chance he makes Team Canada. No chance. No chance he makes Team Canada. He doesn't even have the guts to fight Chris Kreider after he goes and slew-foots Ryan Reeves. That's a dirty prick move, and the fact that your gloves are glued on after that, I don't care if you hate the code. You don't do that. You don't slew-foot someone in preseason. It's as intentional as it gets. He sticks his leg out there. 10 out of 10, not a fan. Alrighty, I was going to ask about the American team, but no one cares about them. So let's talk Minnesota Wild here. Kaprizov, obviously he gets locked up. Sick player, sick deal for him. And Adam Beckman in preseason, an absolute stud. He's a Western kid. Who would have expected anything less from him? I believe he's a Sasky guy as well. But boys, I mean, I got to get your thoughts on the Wild here.
I mean, it's going to be, and pardon the pun, just a wild season, I think. I think there's going to be some ups and downs. This team right now is in a window to compete cap-wise, as they have a little bit of space this year. They actually can pay some guys to compete. Fiala, he only signed a one-year deal, so we don't really know what his future's like next year with the Wild. Do I think they're going all in for the Stanley Cup? Obviously, Billy Guerin's always going to say that, and he's one of the biggest competitors in the NHL on and off the ice, so they're going to try. Obviously, that's the goal of every National Hockey League team. But to be realistic, like if they make it past the first round, I think for the most part, the market, the fans, and the franchise will be satisfied with that. And then hopefully when they get some contracts off the books next year, and like a Victor Rask, for example, they'll be able to bring in some talented ELCs who are going to rip it up in Iowa this year. Iowa is hands down the best AHL team right now. They're unbelievably stacked with talent. And I think it's great that some of these young guys should get the opportunity to marinate down there, absolutely dominate, learn how to just be comfortable at the pro level, be confident in themselves. And next year with, ELCs, they'll be able to come in, slide right under the cap, and the Wild can continue to develop and be competitive until, the Suter Parise situation gets figured out there.
Okay, everyone's asking about the American team. I got to give the thoughts here. Their three were Patrick Kane, Seth Jones, and Austin Matthews. If you don't think Seth Jones is one of the best, if not the best American D-man, you're an idiot that's got to put down the textbook and calculator. I really don't care what you say about his analytics and his stats. You ask 32 NHL GMs. He is one of the best defenders. I mean, you can put him on any team, and he's arguably the best defender on that team. So what else do you need to do or see from this guy when the actual coaches and GMs that pick the teams, that sign the contracts, that put the guys on the ice, want him on their roster? I don't know. It's absolutely asinine. I don't know if you guys got a thought. I mean, Patrick Kane, he's a legend. He's an American hero. And Austin Matthews, I mean, he's nasty. It's Austin Matthews. He's not McDavid, but he's still unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, I like all three. And like you said, I'm actually a big Seth Jones fan, so I'm totally on the same page with you there. And, Austin Matthews, that's a no-brainer. Patrick Kane, the veteran guy, one of the best American players ever. So, yeah, pretty solid point.
You know what, though? What's scary about the American team, and this is what could win it for them, is their goaltending. You got Hellebuck, you got Gibson, and you got Demko. That's your three. Like, honestly, they got Canada beat. They got Russia beat in my mind.
Demko ain't making that team. Thatcher Demko is not making Team USA. Spencer Knight will be there in a heartbeat over him.
As the third string, I know like this is a very West Coast biased show. As you got Podollan coming on next, shout out Vancouver guy. But no, I think Demko absolutely it will be a third stringer or even someone there as a backup. I think Gibby and Hellebuck, it's their net, but I think Demko gets the call for sure.
No, he's not getting the call over Spencer Knight. Give me a break. Hey, you guys are the best, though. We appreciate it. I do have to head off to a commercial break. Everyone go check out the Hockey Podcast Network. I appreciate you guys taking the time this morning.
Yeah, buddy. Anytime. Appreciate it.
You should throw me right there, Dylan Kaiser. Coming on, talking the Hockey Podcast Network and everything else. It's a former NHLer going to hop on after the break. You're watching World Hockey Report. We're coming to you live on 12 Ounce Sports.
World Hockey Report is partnering with Sports Travel Tours to bring you some incredible trips to watch hockey around the world. Sports Travel Tours has been creating hockey trips and tours since 1998. They've sent customers to the Winter Olympics, World Championships, every team in the NHL, as well as the KHL in Russia. And now, for the first time, they've been appointed official tour supplier to the Spengler Cup in Switzerland. As you all know, the Spengler Cup is the world's oldest invitational hockey tournament, set in the stunning mountains of Davos. It's also the best way to spend the time in between Christmas and New Year's. So, cheer on Team Canada in Davos this year with Sports Travel Tours exclusive packages. For information and to book, go to sportstraveltours.com. That's sportstraveltours.com and sign up to get exclusive discounts and trip priority.
Hockey is back, and DraftKings Sportsbook has an unbelievable offer to celebrate the greatest sport on ice. New customers can bet just $1 on any hockey game and win $100 in free bets if either team scores a goal. Doesn't matter if it's a one-time clapper or a deflection. However, they light the lamp, you're going to win. If Sportsbook isn't available in your state, DraftKings won't leave you empty-handed. Everyone can play for huge cash prizes all season long with DraftKings daily fantasy sports contests. DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code THPN. Throw down $1 on any hockey game and win $100 in free bets if either team scores a goal. This week, one puck in the net nets you a big win with promo code THPN at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 years or older in New Jersey, Indiana, and Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit, $1 wager, one per customer. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Let's go back.
It's Cody Jansen, World Hockey Report. We're presented by Lordco Auto Parts. Visit Lordco's in-store truck centers at select locations. Former NHLer Jason Podollan joins me now on the show. And hey, just in the commercial break, we're having a little conversation. I guess you're a BC guy at heart. I'll have to give that to you. But I saw you played minor hockey in Sherwood Park, and that would have been around the early 90s there, I do believe. So did you grow up watching some of those Oilers teams? Like, who were you looking up to as a kid playing hockey before you really broke into the pro ranks?
My guy was Mario Lemieux. So, the Oilers were obviously around. I grew up watching the Canucks with their Stanley Cup final run. That was when I first fell in love with hockey there as a 5-year-old, and that I think it was 81, that run. They went to the finals. And then obviously Edmonton's team was hard not to like, but they were so darn good that it was kind of a reason why I didn't like them. And then Mario came along, and he was kind of my everything. He was my idol. I thought that he was the best one-on-one player in the world, and that's kind of how I saw myself and wanted to emulate him. So, I grew up with Pittsburgh Penguins logo on my wall and wearing Mario's jersey around.
Well, hey, speaking of Mario, and I'm lucky enough to get to work on the Oilers broadcast and get to work with Rob Brown. So someone who spent a lot of time, has a lot of stories there, awesome connection, and definitely someone worth looking up to. Now, let's jump into your NHL career. You spent time Florida, Toronto, LA, the Islanders. I want to hear about this first goal. It was in Florida, correct? How did it happen? Who was it on?
You know what? I'm going to backtrack just for 1 second,
Yeah.
just because that Sherwood Park was actually a pretty good story because we had a good team in Pee Wee. My second year Pee Wee actually won the provincial championships, and Sherwood Park came to our home tournament called the Coca-Cola Classic, which is it's a really big tournament here out west and recognized kind of all over the place. And so the Sherwood Park chain gang came out and they kicked our butt. I was actually sitting out that game, but they beat us. And then the next year I wanted to move up a level here in Vernon, and they wouldn't let me. So I was like, well, you know what? I'm going to go play with those guys. And so I arranged it, and I ended up getting in touch with Mike Dubinsky, who is a player of my age bracket, and ended up going out there. I lived with Mike Dubinsky for a little while so my mom could get an address and made that team. But that team was crazy good. Like Mike Dubinsky was a third rounder. Damon Lanka was a first rounder. Nolan Pratt was a longtime NHLer. Scott Lanka was on that team. Myself was on that team. I think there was like 14 or 15 guys that ended up playing junior hockey, and 5 went on to the NHL. So that was a pretty wild team to be on there in Sherwood Park. So I thought I should mention that.
Geez, not a bad lineup. And I know the Lankos still kicking around. I believe their son's in Med Hat right now. He's a good tendy, good little guy there. So
That's awesome.
Not a few bad names to be growing up around. And then I guess, I mean, anything else that you want to bring up about your days in Spokane or what? You kind of ripped it up there. You picked up a few pims and points, and then you just make the transition. I think you played one season in the American League and then made the jump to the NHL, correct?
Well, yeah, it was kind of a half year there. I was last cut, I think, 2 years in a row from Florida when I went back to Spokane, and then I was there at the AHL level too, my first year pro. And then they called me up about a month into the season. Played, I don't remember many games I played exactly before I got sent down, but I did get that goal you were talking about. That was in Philadelphia at the old Spectrum on Ron Hextall. Nothing glorious. I wish it was better than it was, but it was a rebound goal on the power play. But obviously take it as it ends up being my only one. And so I kind of split time between the NHL and the AHL that year. I was an AHL All-Star that year and won the Rookie of the Year or Rookie of the Game award at the All-Star Game. So that was a cool honor to have. Had a really good AHL season there. It was over a point a game, and ended up getting traded to Toronto at the deadline. So my first year pro was really wild because there was 4 different teams involved. 2 different countries, 2 different leagues, and it was quite the whirlwind of a season at 20 years old.
Jason Podollan, my guest here on World Hockey Report, former NHLer. So that was the year after Florida made their cup run, correct?
Yep, exactly. I was a Black Ace that year. Spokane had a really good run too. We were the number 1 ranked team in the entire CHL that year. We got to the WHL final against Brandon. Unfortunately, that got cut short, and Brendan represented us at the Memorial Cup. But after that run that we went on, Florida called me up for their run, and I was there, for the duration. So right from halfway through the Boston series, right to the final against Colorado. So that was a really cool experience that you don't really even know how cool it is at the time, because obviously it's so rare to be involved with a team that actually gets to the final. So that was a really big eye opener for me and a lot of fun to be a part of.
What was the vibe like following the cup run? Like, was there still that energy in the building at like the year after and stuff when they're not going on any crazy playoff runs or anything? Because you see it now when obviously the team in Florida is picking up again. They got a little bit of a rivalry going on with Tampa Bay and stuff. But what was it like the following year for you?
Well, it made it harder to make that team as a young player because they had so much success and they wanted, they expected that type of success the next season. And a lot of people think that they were just a one and done team, but Florida, I mean, they were off to a really great start at the beginning too. I think it was like 14-3 to start the season or something. Like they were having a really good season, and that was really kind of my demise with Florida's because they were tooling up for another cup run, right? That's why they brought in Kirk Muller there in the trade with me. They thought they had another kick at the can with the players that they had. So there was definitely still a lot of buzz. I don't know if everyone remembers, but that was the year of the Rat, the year before there, and went to the final. So there was all types of, celebrity around the team, and it was still a real fun place to play. And, Florida was really kind of awakening that they had a hockey team still, but it was definitely a cool vibe to be there.
That's awesome. So, what's you obviously you kicked around in between the American League and the NHL. What's the biggest difference, at least when you were playing between those two leagues. What do you think the difference was in you playing 500 games in the NHL versus 500 in the American League? What was that difference maker that maybe you couldn't exactly get over the hump to being a full-time NHLer?
Yeah, it's a great question. And one I've gone over a lot. And one of the reasons why I do what I do now is because I work with players on the mindset side of things. And for me, it wasn't a skill level. I led the AHL in goals at 21 years old, and was successful there. And I played with those guys enough, went on and had long careers. So there's a lot that's involved, and I take full accountability for the career that I had, and I'm proud of the career that I had. But I do think there was more games at that level available to me. To answer your question short, you have to be ready for your opportunities when they come. Sometimes your runway is long, and sometimes it's short. So when you're in that position and you are getting the opportunity, you have to make sure you are set and ready, to put your best foot forward when the stage is the biggest and the brightest. So, that's one thing. Sometimes the opportunities aren't the same for everybody, and sometimes, opportunity doesn't knock at maybe the right time too. There's lots of players that I've interviewed on my podcast at My Hockey that, Wade Redden comes to mind. He was one of the top picks there, and he got to Ottawa, and there was like 6 defensemen out when he got to his first training camp, and there was no one else left. And they said, "Hey, you're going to go out here. You're going to make all the mistakes you want to make, and we're going to keep putting you out. And you're our guy." And that's an awesome environment to be in sometimes. And sometimes guys get that, like I said, and sometimes guys get a 3-game window. and if you don't get her done, you don't get her done. And long answer, but the time's got to be right. Your head's got to be right. And the opportunity's got to be right. And sometimes when it goes well, that leads to a long career. And sometimes when that audition doesn't go well, you get labeled and you get stuck.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Great insight there. Now, I want to dive. I got a few more questions about your North American career, but the conversation's blowing up here. Everyone wants to know, since Jason Podollan played in several countries, including Germany, this is Jeff, by the way, Germany and Asia, what's the biggest difference between those countries when it comes to hockey? So, kind of just the culture shock and playing over there. What was that like for you?
That was a big decision for me, because I was my original plan. I left at 25, so I was 5 years mostly in the American League. I played 2 full seasons in the American League. We got to the final once, and I just kind of felt like I needed to kind of reinvent myself. I thought that I was sort of being overlooked as somebody that could play in the NHL, and I was like, I just got to get out of this microscope here and just sort of go and get back to my offensive ways and then come back. So my idea was to go for a year and come back. So I went to Germany and got off to kind of too good of a start in some ways, because they wanted to sign me to a 2-year extension. And so then I had kind of a decision to make. I knew if I signed that extension that my original plan wasn't going to be, I wasn't going to come back to the NHL, and that was probably me signing off of that dream. But I was having so much fun there, and I was playing well, and it was really wild to be a part of that, new culture. And I've always been an exploratory person and a curious person. So I ended up signing the deal, and, I don't regret it. It was a great time over there. And as far as the league's concerned, it's good hockey, especially in Germany. That you got I think it was 14 imports at the time, or 15. So it was a mostly North American team. All of which had pro experience. Various levels of pro experience. Some guys with a lot of NHL experience. The hockey was really good. Schedule is much lighter. You only play twice a week. Kind of established games too. The road trips aren't very long. For a guy like me who got traded a few times and was bouncing around from teams, like you can't get traded over there. So there's the nice idea of just, hey, I can actually unpack my bag and feel comfortable. So there was a lot that was right about that. I didn't have a family at the time either, so I was able to move and kind of relocate and vagabond a little bit and start to explore the country while I was there outside of hockey. So for me, it was kind of the perfect recipe and something that I look back on super fondly.
What about going over to Asia? I know that league, they chuck money at guys, Jason. Don't kid yourself here. Were they throwing the bag at you or what? Or did you really want to go live there?
That's a great question. Yeah, I retired after my 3rd year there with Germany, and I was like, all right, I'm done. I had a couple concussions while I was over there, and my head wasn't feeling great. And I was just like, you know what? I think that's enough. I always sort of saw myself as a university guy, so I got enrolled in university and was going to UBCO here in Kelowna. and anyways, the phone wouldn't stop ringing. It was funny, right? When you're looking for a job, it seems like nobody's looking for you, and then you're not looking for a job, and everyone wants a piece of you. So these leagues and towns, like from places I didn't even know really had hockey, were calling. You know, Milan, I remember, was one of them, and Copenhagen and Denmark, and so it was really cool areas. But I was like, you know what, the money wasn't really good enough for me to uproot again and then go play. But then Japan called it just before Christmas, and they were going to get, I forget, it was like 70,000, I think, or 75 US for the last 3 months of the season, which turned out to be like maybe 20 games. And it was Japan, and like Japan was always sort of on my radar. I love their culture. I love their food. You know, I love a lot about what I did understand about it at the time. And I'm like, wow, to go over there. And the teams in that league were like in Asia and Korea. So we got to go to Beijing, and we also got to go into South Korea, to Seoul. So it was a really wild experience, and I'm really glad I did. And I actually sort of fell in love with the game a little bit again, and wanted to do another kick at the cat, and ended up going to Detroit Red Wings camp after my experience there. And yeah, anyways, that's a whole nother story. But yeah, Japan was a heck of a interesting time. I wouldn't say it was like the most fun, just because, you know, where we were on the North Island, it was really, I was the only white guy.
It's a tougher area to live.
I was bald. Yeah, you know what I mean? It was, I would stop traffic. So it was like very, very Japanese. There wasn't much North American influence at the time. So there wasn't a whole much of socializing going on. There was a little bit of a, you know, quiet time for me, but it was really interesting. And I really enjoyed my time there for sure.
Eric says 37 PIMs in 10 games in the Asia League's pretty legendary. I'll go with that. Hey, I got one story I got to ask you about. We've talked with Jim McKenzie before. I got to ask about that fight, Jason. I mean, you're a skilled guy. You're lighting up the American League. Why are you shedding the mitts with big Jim McKenzie?
How in the heck did you know about that?
Oh, I've got my sources. I might have fired off a text or two. What happened there? What led to this? Like, did he piss you off or what?
Did he even remember that? There's no way he remembered that, did he?
I can't give away anything, Jason. You know how it goes. Give me the story.
Funny. Well, no, yeah, well, that's a great. I mean, it's a good story for me. You know, one that I would not think Jim McKenzie remembers. But it was a preseason game in LA, and we were playing Anaheim. I was trying to make that team. I'd just been traded for Perot the season before. I was told to come into camp at 215 pounds because I was likely going to make it as a third or fourth line right wing. This is coming off a 46 goal season, right, in the AHL. So, you know, they kind of were going to give me a role change, which I was fine with. And I put on the weight and I was ready to go. And so we're playing Anaheim, and I think it was Korea or Solani. One of the two got taken out behind the net by O'Donnell. And yeah, I mean, obviously they didn't like that very much. It was one of those plays that was maybe a little over the line, and probably an exhibition. Nobody should be going over the line with those two guys. So, there was a big fracas that happened there. We were in the box, and we ended up being on the power play. So I went out for the power play, and Jim McKenzie was out there killing the penalty, which I'm sure might have been the first or second time in his career that he'd ever been asked to kill a penalty. So I should have figured that one out right away. But we had one of our defensemen, I can't remember who the defenseman was lined up against Jim. And Andy Murray called to me and they said, "No, Jason, you like switch spots with him." So I don't know if Andy like was trying to set me up for my death, or if he was like assuming that Jim wouldn't do anything with me because the other guy was kind of maybe more of a tough guy prototype. But anyways, I go over there, and right when the puck's dropped, Jim slashes my ankles and he says, "Here we go, kid." And so I was right in front of our bench. So I wasn't a scared player by any means. I'd fight, but I mean, it obviously wasn't my MO. I honestly didn't really know who Jim McKenzie was. I found out in a hurry that he was left-handed. I hit him real hard a couple times, and he didn't even move. And then all of a sudden, he decided to fight back. And anyways, I ended up on my back with a cut on my cheek, and but I was fine, you know what I mean? Well, he said good job too when he was lying on top of me. I remember that. He was like super, super gentleman. He was just doing what he needed to do. And it was one of the best things I could have ever done, actually, is fight him, just with the respect he even gave me amongst the Kings, and you know how many guys were giving me high fives and bump taps after the game for doing that. It didn't help me in Andy Murray's eyes, I guess. He still cut me, but anyways, I know that was something that I'm proud of doing, and you know, my goodness, and something that I probably would not want to do again, though.
What a story, though. That's awesome, Jason. Man, we could tell stories for hours here, but I got to head off to a commercial break. I appreciate you hopping on here. I know we could talk for hours about it, but first, actually, plug your podcast. You still doing Up My Hockey and all that? What else you got going on? Let the people know.
Oh, I appreciate it. Yeah, I got the podcast going on. It's just my way to give back to the game. I bring on people within my network and talk about their stories and how to make it big. I know a lot of young athletes out there are trying their best, but sometimes we don't really know what we're doing. We don't know what we don't know. So we can learn from others' experiences, and that's my way of doing that. And that's the Up My Hockey podcast. And you can follow me there on social media, Instagram. I'm at Jason Podollan. I have a parent group on Facebook that's like 1,500 families strong from all across North America, where I help the parents and the athletes kind of navigate this game, and that's Up My Hockey on Facebook, the parent group. And if you want to find me on my website, it's Up My Hockey, and that's how I got a program called the Peak Potential Project, which is blowing up, and players are getting amazing results. And it's essentially 4 weeks to find your game from a mental standpoint. There's nothing like it on the market, and I took everything that I wish I would have known back when I was playing, and put it into 4 weeks, and players are loving it. So I guess that's my marketing pitch and everything I got going on.
That's awesome. Well, hey, I got a few more stories we'll get to, so we'll connect with you down the road. I'll make sure Bryce reaches out again, and we'll get you scheduled in for some more stories. But Jason, thank you so much, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries, bud. Thanks for having me on. Have a great
Jason Podollan right there, my guest on World Hockey Report. Yeah, that Jim McKenzie story, come on. That's why we love the game of hockey, and I know he's got more, so yes, we are going to bring him on. But we got to head off to a commercial break here at the 12:43 mark or so. Yeah, we'll open the phone lines. We'll talk about whatever you want right here. World Hockey Report presented by Lord Auto Parts. I'm Cody Jansen, coming to you live from the Pro Rock Broadcast Studios.
World Hockey Report is partnering with Sports Travel Tours to bring you some incredible trips to watch hockey around the world. Sports Travel Tours has been creating hockey trips and tours since 1998. They've sent customers to the Winter Olympics, World Championships, every team in the NHL, as well as the KHL in Russia. And now, for the first time, they've been appointed official tour supplier to the Spengler Cup in Switzerland. As you all know, the Spengler Cup is the world's oldest invitational hockey tournament, set in the stunning mountains of Davos. It's also the best way to spend the time in between Christmas and New Year's. So, cheer on Team Canada in Davos this year with Sports Travel Tours exclusive packages. For information and to book, go to sportstraveltours.com. That's sportstraveltours.com and sign up to get exclusive discounts and trip priority.
Hockey is back, and DraftKings Sportsbook has an unbelievable offer to celebrate the greatest sport on ice. New customers can bet just $1 on any hockey game and win $100 in free bets if either team scores a goal. Doesn't matter if it's a one-time clapper or a deflection. However, they like the lamp, you're going to win. If Sportsbook isn't available in your state, DraftKings won't leave you empty-handed. Everyone can play for huge cash prizes all season long with DraftKings Daily Fantasy Sports Contests. DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code THPN. Throw down $1 on any hockey game and win $100 in free bets if either team scores a goal. This week, one puck in the net nets you a big win with promo code THPN at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 years or older in New Jersey, Indiana, and Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit, $1 wager, one per customer. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
What we do here is go back.
You like those stories? Jason Podollan bringing the heat on World Hockey Report. It's provided by Lordco Auto Parts. Find a store near you at lordco.com. And in case you missed any of that interview, go download the podcast on the Hockey Podcast Network after this shows up. You also got Isha Jerome, Dylan Kaiser earlier, talking everything hockey. And of course, everyone knows my favorite hockey tournament of the year is the Spangler Cup. The great people at Sports Travel Tours, they want you to experience it as well. Check them out for all the available packages at sportstraveltours.com. You got the commercials rolling. And I guess we might as well open the phone lines here on World Hockey Report. Any comment you got, join the conversation. We'll head off to the Quack Stats hotline right now. Who do we got calling in?
This is Alex Nicoletti.
Alex, how did I know you'd be calling in? What a surprise. What's going on, buddy? What's happening in the great state of Minnesota?
We're excited. We got college hockey starting up, and we got NHL regular season on its way here very soon as well. So yeah, we're excited to have hockey back in the state of.
So I'm a little bit muzzled on college hockey as I may have some work affiliations, but just start off by pumping St. Cloud's tires, and we'll end it there.
Yeah, exactly. It's a huge weekend coming up. Starting tomorrow, we got 1 versus 2 in the country, so it's going to be a big deal in Mankato. I'm a graduate of Minnesota State Mankato, where David Backus has played college hockey too, and so yeah, it's going to be fun to be back in a college rink. It's going to be a full barn, and yeah, I can't wait. I haven't been in a college hockey arena in over a year with the COVID restrictions. So head down there with my dad, and yeah, it's gonna be fun to watch some amazing college hockey for sure.
Okay, I saw you tweeted out a photo. I believe it was you or it was Pat who tweeted out a photo of your Uncle Joe playing in Edmonton. You know, you had some. Yeah. He was with some pretty good players. If anyone's ever heard of Wayne Gretzky before, does he ever tell you stories or what?
Yeah, it's I put that out, but yeah, I was just looking at old photos and I found it. It was pretty cool. He got to play with Wayne when he was only 18 in the WHA, so that was cool. Cool hearing just the beginning of Wayne's career and just how good he was. Just playing with men, a lot guys that are a lot stronger and still dominating. So yeah, it's fun to hear the old stories for sure.
Alex, I want to hear your take on the Minnesota Wild here. Is Kaprizov a game changer? Are they going to make the playoffs even this year?
Yeah, I think they are. It was nice to get Kaprizov back, but I think Cam Talbot is even a bigger story. I mean, I think he was the MVP of the team last year, and we'll see if he can do it with kind of a depleted D-core. But yeah, Kaprizov, you put him with a guy like Matt Zuccarello, and that's magic. He can. Paul Fenton called him the Lizard when he was the GM. He's a great player for Krill to have on his line, and it looks like they're going to have Joel Eriksson Ek center those two. So that's a big step up in competition for Ek. He's used to playing on the third line. So we'll see how long that lasts. But they had some instant chemistry the other night against Colorado in the preseason, albeit preseason. But it's fun to see production out of that line. And you got two game changers on this team, Fiala and Kaprizov. So it's gonna be fun, and seeing them integrate some of the younger kids. We'll see if they make the team or not. And Matt Boldy and Marco Rossi. So yeah, a lot of exciting things to come with this Wild squad for sure.
I got one more for you, and I know we got to take a couple more calls here for the Quack Stats hotline. But Adam Beckman, I mean, he's a good Western League kid. He's been tearing it up this preseason. What's your thoughts on him so far?
Yeah, it's been a blast to watch him in the preseason. A kid that I've always enjoyed watching. You can't teach scoring, and that kid's scored at every level. So. He's got another big opportunity tonight. He's playing on the fourth line with Marco Rossi. So we'll see if he can make it. The Wild also signed picked up Rem Pitlick off waivers from Nashville, a Minnesota kid. So that might throw a wrench in him making the squad. But he's been given every opportunity. So I hope he takes advantage of it again tonight, and it'd be nice to see him. On the fourth line. I don't think he's a fourth line type player, but if that's the way to make the club right now, I'm all for it for sure.
Alex, appreciate the call, man. As always, Take care.
Okay, yeah, you take care. Take care, Cody.
Alex Micheletti hopping in on the Quack Stats hotline. If you want to join the conversation, doesn't matter. You can hop on there anytime at 12 Ounce Sports, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch. That's where you can connect. I did want to get to a quick comment here. This is from Mark Bergman, and we didn't really touch on the Carey Price thing earlier. We did hop into a quick interview, but he is going to be taking a leave. He's getting help from the league. He's stepping into the assistance program, minimum 30 days. He's going to be gone. Mark Bergevin kind of spoke about the team, the atmosphere around players. Now they've obviously had Drouin step away last year and Carey Price this year, and he had some interesting thoughts. So have a listen.
Yes, I think to the elephant in the room, sometimes we don't say anything and it's very personal, but I salute and I'm glad they did. And if there's other players in the NHL who have different issues, whatever that is, I think the NHL and the HLPA are really looking at the well-being of their players, and I commend them to do that. I think every Joe manager is very sensitive to that. And we are here in Montreal, and for Joe and Carey and his family, he's got kids, 3 kids, and his wife. So I think we need to support them. We need to respect their privacy, and wish him the best. And like I told Martin earlier on, I believe better days are ahead for Carey and his family.
Right there, GM Mark Bergevin talking about Drouin, Carey Price. He's obviously taken a leave. That's the thing. Families first. Adam posted the post from his wife, who sent that up on Instagram, I believe, earlier today. I'm not going to go read it off verbatim, but again, go check it out at World Hockey RPT. The conversation's open. You got any questions? Join it right now. We're coming to you live from the Pro Rock Broadcast Studios, beautiful Alberta. We got to talk some Wild. Alex calls in there. He thinks they're a playoff team. Is Minnesota a playoff team? I'm not exactly convinced, but I will go through. We talked Olympics as well. I know it sparked some debate. The whole Thatcher Demko, is he going to be on the team or not? End of the day, my opinion might not be right, but I do think that Spencer Knight's a better goaltender than Thatcher Demko. I'll stand by that 9 times out of 10. Doesn't mean they're going to take him on the Olympic team. Again, I'm not the one making the call. Team Canada, their first 3 players: Connor McDavid, Sidney Crosby, Alex Pietrangelo. Team USA: Patrick Kane, Seth Jones, Austin Matthews. I have a hard time arguing any of these. Anyone who's pissed off about Seth Jones being selected, I think you're off your rocker, if I'm being honest. Andre Palat, Jakub Voracek, David Pastrnak are the 3 for Team Czech Republic. Kind of makes sense there. Voracek. We'll see what type of season he has going back to Columbus there. Sweden's got Victor Hedman. That's a no-brainer. Landeskog as well. And Mika Zibanejad. Maybe a little bit of a shocker. Thought maybe a Pedersen could have got in there. Again, Zibanejad, he's a hero. He's got international experience. I think that's what they want. I think these 3 are mainly for marketing purposes. And that's where it is. Finland's got Barkov out of Florida, Mikko Rantanen out of Colorado, and Sebastian Aho. So I believe they're the only team so far to go with 3 forwards. Quickly, I think they're the only team to go with 3 forwards right now. Barkov's a no-brainer. He's a top 10 NHLer. Rantanen's good. Again, Finland's got a deep team. That's kind of always what they've had. Who's my dark horse? This is Eric in the chat, social media guy right there. Who's the dark horse team this season to overachieve their expectations? Well, to overachieve, I guess it kind of depends on where you're setting the bar. Are you setting the bar for a team like Chicago at playoffs? Are you setting it at not being bottom 2? I would say Chicago's probably my dark horse. Because I don't think Calgary could be considered a dark horse. I don't think Seattle's really considered a dark horse. I would go with Chicago. And I think a lot of people are just undervaluing the moves they made in the offseason. When you can add Tyler Johnson, Seth Jones, Caleb Jones, Marc-Andre Fleury, and you're bringing back Jonathan Taves to your lineup, They won a playoff series in the bubble. This is a team that without them, they still took down the Edmonton Oilers in playoffs in the bubble. So I would say for their expectations of what the general population's giving them, I would say Chicago is probably that team to over-exceed expectations. Again, let me know your thoughts at World Hockey RPT. Connect anytime on Twitter. I'm there at Janner31. Glenn says New Jersey. And the Devils, I don't believe they're going to exceed expectations. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Blackwood, because if he's going to have to miss a lot of time because he's not vaccinated, can't play in certain rinks, can't go to certain countries, that's going to hurt him a ton. You can't overstate that fact. And when that happens, you got to assume that there's a little bit of unrest within the team. Maybe some guys aren't too happy about it. Think about Tyler Bertuzzi. Still answering questions about that. Saw it multiple times in the interview today. They said, hey, are you second guessing your choice to not get vaccinated? He says no in a heartbeat. I have a hard time believing that. I have to think that there is multiple people talking to him about, hey, the team needs you for a full 82 game season. So if you're going to put yourself ahead of the team, as Darren McCarty said, probably get lost because your trade value's gone and it's just going to go down. So Glenn going with New Jersey, we'll go back to that. I don't see it. Is Dougie Hamilton really going to move the needle that much? Is Thomas Tatar going to move the needle that much? Is Jack Hughes, I was going to say Luke Hughes, is Jack Hughes really going to take that next step that he needs to be dominant? I like that the Shergodovich or whatever, the Belarusian kid they've got. I think he's going to be a stud. Nico Hischier, I think, is going to be a great second-line player in the NHL. They don't have depth up front. They don't have depth on the back end. And maybe Bernier's a good move as your backup goaltender. Sure, he's a reliable guy. He can play those games that Mackenzie Blackwood's not allowed in the barn. But I still don't see the Devils having a sniff at playoffs. We talked about Adam Beckman like twice on the show already. Great celebration, OT winner. But he did go toe-to-toe last night there. Maybe got dropped a little bit, but still a great fight. You know, you step up, especially for a guy who hasn't scrapped in juniors. You go toe-to-toe. I don't think anyone's going to be mad about that. You're battling for a spot on the team. You show you how bad you want it. I think that's pretty good for a guy like Beckman, who will get NHL games this season. I think that's guaranteed at this point. Everyone's seeing what type of player he has to be and what type of player he can be. And Eric says, I hate to be a yes man, simply agree with your take. I think Chicago as well, I feel like the general population isn't giving them as much credit as well. He also said, my concern with the Devils is Blackwood's status. That'll set them back a lot. I do agree. And of course, join the conversation anytime, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, wherever you are watching from. I want to know your dark horse for this season. We only got a couple of minutes left. If you want to get in on the hotline, it's 825-439-9119. You can get in. You got a minute to get your take out there. If you miss the stories from Podollan, though, go download the podcast after the Hockey Podcast Network, wherever you get it. That doesn't matter. I mean, you can get it at iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, I believe. Any podcatcher is going to have it. If you want to get in quickly, here it is, 825-439-9119. You can get in, always hyping the Sasky boys. Yes, we are, and we will never stop doing that. A big thing, though, from today, obviously, our thoughts, our well wishes are with Carey Price. We do hope, he can get the help he needs, get back to healthy, mentally, physically, whatever he's dealing with. We do hope that, this can come full circle here. Connor McDavid got asked, this is coming from Sportsnet's Mark Spector. He said, who plays the wing, him or Sid? And he said, I'm sure I would. He's a little better on draws. Is that McDavid being humble, or is he saying, hey, Crosby's the GOAT on face-offs? Will be interesting to see, though. A couple of NHLers on waivers. We'll crush through some news here with a minute to go. Troy Grosenick from Boston, Ryan Murray from Detroit, Andrew Hammond from the Wild, AJ Greer from the Devils, Louis Domingue for Pittsburgh, Charlie Lindgren for St. Louis, and well with Nathan Walker, Australian right there. A couple of goalies again. The Oilers not too quick to jump on any, not too quick to bring any back. You're going to need to fill that spot, though. I don't think you want to keep Stuart Skinner up as your third goalie this season. Do you? you going to rotate him and Konovalov? It's kind of a bold choice if you ask me. And nonetheless, I guess we'll let Ken Holland do his job and we'll do ours. Back here on Tuesday, same time, same place. You want to support World Hockey Report, support the people who help us out. Sports Travel Tours. Go to the Spangler Cup. Go get the trip of a lifetime. Lordco Auto Parts, the official auto parts retailer of Hockey Canada. Team Canada, Pro Rock, Hockey Sticks, Quack Stats, the best analytics there is. Alrighty, that's going to do it for me, everyone. Enjoy your weekend. It's Thanksgiving if you're in Canada. So definitely be safe. Don't drink and drive. Don't do anything stupid. And we'll talk to you next week, everyone. Be kind. Be better.